going to talk about diet. This is a very high-level overview of the diet. I've got a slide that actually goes into a little bit more detail than this, because I don't expect anybody to be able to read this. The important part of this slide is this right here, the visual that this creates. It was a lot better when the government had the same dietary pyramid for people, but they went and changed it, so now I'm like, I'm just not changing mine. So at the bottom of our pyramid, the most important part of rabbit's diet is hay, and that's part of how we're demonstrating that. They need to have hay 24/7. And then the next part of our pyramid is vegetables, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on the next slide on specific amounts. But they should have vegetables. Rabbits are rapacious, meaning that they are active at dawn and dusk. And so I tend to feed my rabbits the vegetables once in the morning and once at night. Whatever their vegetables are for the day, I split them up. I don't give it to them all at once. And the reason I do that is because it kind of mimics their own natural instinctual behavior. After vegetables, and this is where we tend to have a difference of opinion than breeders and pet stores typically. Some of them are getting better at this, is pellets. We put our rabbits on restricted pellets. Imagine if you were given cereal, and that's all you got to eat for the rest of your life. You could survive, but it's not healthy. That's what they're doing with pellets. It's an easy source to give rabbits food. Again, it was created not for the rabbits' benefit, but for the humans' benefit. How much easier is it to give rabbit pellets versus having to deal with hay and vegetables? Well, there's a lot of calories in pellets too, depending on which pellet you use too. And the pellets were also created to put a lot of meat on the livestock rabbits, so we have restricted pellets. There are some vets who actually recommend no pellets at all, and just doing the hay, the vegetables, and what I'll talk about in a second at the top of the pyramid. They do fine without those, but we absolutely recommend restricted pellets. At the very top, in a tiny bit part of the pyramid, are fruit, which we recommend as treats. We tell people do not buy any store-bought treats. Store-bought treats have things in them. They'll have a picture of a rabbit on a store-bought treat that they should not have, which can cause GI stasis. They really shouldn't have a lot of sugar. So the fruit is a good way for them to get those treats. It's a lot healthier than some of the store-bought treats because it's going to still have vitamins and minerals in fruits. Not much different than with humans than it is with rabbits. If I'm eating fruit versus cake, chances are the fruit's much better for me than the cake. Both good treats. A lot of the store-bought treats tend to have things like nuts, seeds, honey, all things they shouldn't have. They have a sweet tooth. They'll tell you, I really want that treat. They really shouldn't have it. They're not going to, think about it again. How many kids, here, do you want this lollipop? No, I'm sorry, I can't have that lollipop. It's not healthy for me. Not much different than a kid. You hand them a lollipop, they're going to eat it. Not necessarily the healthiest thing for them. Okay, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So that's our visual. Again, order of importance, the first thing is hay. We recommend Western Timothy hay. Alfalfa hay is okay if they're babies. I think it's from birth to about 3 months. You can actually start feeding them regular hay at any age, but they should have alfalfa with that when they're younger. When they're older, like Gus here, stay in the cage, buddy.
I was going to say the door on that's broken now, so just be careful. Sophie broke it.
Stay in the cage, buddy. Okay. The reason why alfalfa is not the best choice of hay is because there's too much calcium in it. Rabbits don't need a lot of calcium when they're growing, when they're babies and they're growing. The calcium helps them grow bones, yada, yada, yada. But when they're adults, the alfalfa is really not a good choice for them. If you have no access to hay in today's day and age, it's ridiculous. Chances are there's a feeding grain store out there. There are a lot more pet stores like Petco and PetSmart that are selling better hay. When I first had my first rabbit, we used to buy him KT hay. I don't know if you guys ever seen this. Hay was brown. Rabbit loved it. He thought it was great. We were happy with it. And then we came across a company called Oxbow Hay Company, and we bought some of their hay. Western Timothy hay is supposed to be green when you buy it, not brown, because it ages and browns when it ages, and it loses some of the nutrients in it when it does that. So if you're going to be buying hay from a feed and grain store, what I recommend to people is you want to make sure that the hay that you're purchasing smells fresh, doesn't have any mold in it, has no bugs, because if you go to their store, they typically will store the hay bales on a truck, and they're just going to give you whatever the next hay bale is. And more of that hay bales are going to horses than they are to rabbits, so people aren't getting like 1 or 2, they're getting 20 or however many they need to feed a horse. So you want to make sure that the hay bale that you're given is a appropriate hay bale, meaning that it hasn't gotten moldy on the truck, there's no bugs in it, and it smells fresh and it's still. Chances are you're not going to get completely green. Oxbow hay, we don't know how they do it, but when they pack their hay, it's green. There's very few brown pieces in it. There's actually people who have accused them of spray painting their hay. I don't know how they would do that because it would make it wet.
I can tell you how they do it. They cure it in the barn. They don't cure it outside in the sun. That's why it's expensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, it is expensive.
It's very dusty, so be aware of that.
Yeah.
Alternative hays, online, there's
Yeah. Sweet Meadow is another place that does hay. Their hay's very good.
I live next to a feed store, and I actually feed 5 rabbits, and hay's a big issue. And the Timothy crop this year, and this around us anyway, I'm near the University of Connecticut, kind of failed because there's too much rain. So I stopped being able to get quality Timothy hay from the feed store, and I tried Farmer Dave's hay, and 5 out of 5 of my rabbits wouldn't eat it. It's very expensive, that upper New York State hay. So then I turned to the Oxbow, and I'm paying, I was $9 for a bale next door at the feed store. Now we paid $72 for the same, basically the same amount.
And 50-pound box.
Yeah, but the rabbits thought that, I have noticed though, because they tend to flake the hay, sort of Oxbow does, it's really dusty because of that.
It is a little dusty.
So there is one thing you can do with Oxbow, that is if you find an Agway.
A what?
Agway or whatever, an Agway at a feed store, a grain store.
Agway.
We have a grain store in the neighborhood. I go there and I ask them, even if they have one of the back Oxbow, it's horrendously expensive. So you go there and you ask them to get a bale, and they order that for you, and that's much more, that's much cheaper. So for the bale Oxbow, we pay now $50, which is much cheaper than what we usually pay.
Did it come in a box? Did it come in a box?
It's in a box.
Yeah, they
That's
sell
what
it.
I
They sell
thought.
it. Yeah, they sell in a 50-pound box.
I still had, we had to pay the shipping and everything.
Yeah,
So-
that's what you're paying for is the shipping.
And I got it from the feed store, but they made me pay for the shipping that they had to pay. I don't know, but it was, but the rabbits weren't.
Yeah, no,
But it's not
I
as good if it's not
feed
censored.
all of my rabbits Oxbow hay. They don't
But
have
the fact
anything
that
else.
it's not censored is not really good.
Okay, I'm gonna reel us back to what we're doing over here. Okay, hay, I think I've got that across to everybody. The next thing is veggies. Veggies is the next best thing to bunnies. This is really where they're going to get their vitamins and minerals, is in the vegetables. Hay is going to give them a lot of calories and nutrients, but the veggies are where they're going to get the vitamins and minerals. Not much different for humans than it is for rabbits. Just want to mention, just real quick on the hay, the other thing that the hay does is it helps with the digestion system. Rabbits don't have the same digestive system as a cat or a dog. They're much more similar to a horse or a deer, and they actually ferment their food. They don't grind it up. And what the hay does is it actually helps push stuff through. It's fiber getting stuff through their system. And that's why the exercise is also very important. So for vegetables, we recommend 1 cup of vegetables per 4 pounds of body weight. Gus is probably anywhere between 4 and 6 pounds, so he should have about a cup of food. If he's closer to the 6 pound side, cup and a half, you know. I don't usually measure my veggies, but I just make sure that they have enough. And we also recommend that they have 3 different kinds a day. We have a full list of vegetables in the guide. There are some vegetables you want to avoid. Cauliflower is one, cabbage is another one, which is funny because a lot of the Dietrich's fodder, they have rabbits eating cabbage. And the reason why those are not good choices for rabbits is because they tend to create gas in the system, and the rabbits can go through what's called GI stasis. And what happens with that is the gas starts to build up, makes them feel uncomfortable, they don't want to eat, more gas builds up, next thing you know, you're bringing your rabbit to the vet because they're not eating.
Does kale count as cabbage?
Huh?
Does kale count as cabbage?
No. No. Actually, the best vegetables are those leafy green vegetables, kale, collard, mustard greens, beet greens. Those are all good. The only thing you want to be careful with vegetables is when your rabbits start to get older, you need to make sure that you have a variety so there's not so much calcium. All of those have a lot of calcium in them, so you can create a situation where if you're putting too much calcium into a rabbit, they can have what they call bladder sludge. What happens is their system flushes the calcium out, and you can tell the rabbit's getting too much calcium by their poops. If their poops start looking like it's got a fine white powder on it, that's the calcium being flushed out of their system, and you probably want to cut back on any of those really leafy greens. A alternative to that is any of the lettuces, like romaine lettuce, any of the leafy green vegetables, leafy green lettuces. They don't have high calcium, so they can have those as well. I wanted to make mention to you that iceberg lettuce is one that you want to avoid. There's no nutrients in it really, it's mostly water. Not much different than humans. We're much better with romaine versus iceberg. And it can cause diarrhea in rabbits, so you want to avoid iceberg altogether. I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with that here. Okay, so again, pellets restricted. Probably don't know this. 1/8 of a cup a day. 1/8 of a cup a day is very, very tiny bits of pellets. That's all they should have. So Gus, again, who's about a 4 to 6 pound rabbit, I know I keep saying anybody, should have probably about a 1/4 cup a day. No more. People who fill those cracks, giving their rabbits way too many pellets.
That is like my biggest pet peeve, is that the bowls that we have here are all for cats and dogs, and all the bowls that are ceramic that rabbits won't eat here, if you can still see part of the bottom, that's good for them. Like, you just sprinkle it,
Yeah.
and I'll come in and they'll be filled to the top, and
Yeah.
I'm having like a heart attack in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, flipping out.
Yeah.
And we actually finally asked one of our managers to get us smaller bowls.
Yeah.
They gave us permission to actually order them and said that they would pay us back because we just had 2 bunnies that literally had diarrhea for almost a month. Because you'd come in and it'd be like our days off and we'd come in and oh, geez Louise.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest headache I have in the morning.
Oh, and the thing is they love
Oh, they'll
pellets.
eat it, and that's
They'll
the
love
problem,
it.
is that they'll finish the
Right,
bowl.
they'll eat the pellets and then they're not getting the hay and the veggies that they're supposed to have. Actually, it's not, they usually don't give up the veggies, they usually give up the hay. So you want to make sure that you give restricted pellets. We recommend Timothy pellets. Thanks, Gus, finally, you're lying down, buddy. We recommend Timothy pellets. Again, same reason we recommend Timothy hay. They have a lower calorie content, less calcium. Rabbits, adult rabbits don't need a lot of calcium. Their bones are hollow, so they don't really have a lot of bone that they need to keep a lot of calcium. And again, that's because they're prey animals meant to run and get away from predators.